Ladies and gentlemen, I am Ashleigh Wode. I am a student representative of Year 9 and I'm here to convince you all that Hatchet must be studied by Year 9 secondary school students across Australia. Gary Paulson's book Hatchet is a worthy read as it provides students aged 15 to 19 facing depression, stress, body image and anxiety, these being Australian teens' largest developing health issues. Statistics show that in 2012, 18.7% of teenagers that responded to a youth survey met the criteria of a suffering patient to a serious mental health illness. Since 2012, there has been a 4.1 increase, most recently re-recorded in 2016. 1 in 4 teenage students once again met the criteria to a serious mental illness. The Hatchet is based around a teenager named Brian Roberson, suffering with the many mental ailments many teenagers handle regularly. Brian manages to conquer them within the 19-long chapter adventure while stranded in the northern woods of Canada. This book is about individuality, bravery, and persistence, played in the act of survival. Brian Roberson finds himself on his way to his father's oil farm, but when disaster strikes, the teenager finds himself in a troubling situation in a fight for survival. This novel efficiently applies many literary techniques, but today I will be focusing on symbolism and characterization. These two elements completely summarize my point why Year 9 secondary school students should study, read, and analyze Hatchet. Symbolism represents the signs of suffering victims and signs of survival like food, water, and importantly to the book, the Hatchet. Characterization expresses each character in great detail, which can also be used commonly to analyze classmates, friends, and family for their approaches, maturity, and general personality. Gary Paulson uses complex characterization to convey the theme of maturing in his construction of the character Brian Roberson. Characterization is the process of building character, including how they communicate, perform, attire, and stroll. Students are expected in their assignments to identify characterization and summarize how it is used within the text, and Hatchet provides the ideal opportunity for this. Gary Paulson has written the novel with an approach of feeling like you are watching the story unfold from when the plane crashes to when he handles the wilderness. Gary Paulson allows the reader to watch the young, unexperienced Brian Roberson develop his skills and become a capable, sophisticated young teenager, both mentally and physically. Because Hatchet is written in third-person view, the outsider views Brian as a quiet, stubborn, emotional teenager. An example of this would be on page 7. Thanks, it's really nice. But these words sounded hollow, even to Brian. Throughout the orientation of the book, Brian continues to think deeper into his flashbacks of how his parents, teachers, and friends and the secret as he considers everything with an open mind, how he could have done things differently, and considers why these events happened in that certain order. In these flashbacks, Brian is reminded how he solved earlier problems relating him to his current struggles in the woods by overcoming some of the most challenging, unforgiving memories. Brian manages to find a heat source throughout the night, food and drink, coming back to the point of maturing. To convey the theme of maturing as the novel progresses, Gary Paulson filters Brian's thoughts and flashbacks with actions of movement and progression. By the end of the novel, Hatchet, Brian has fully matured, leaving him with a generous and experienced mind. This is demonstrated when Brian offers the rescue pilot a bite to eat. By using this narrative element, the reader recognizes that Brian has had a major shift in mental state, a sure sign of excellent application of characterization. Gary Paulson uses a simple but crucial element of symbolism. Gifted from the start, the Hatchet was a gift from Brian Roberson's mother, as a sign in relation to the saying, bury the hatchet. A literary symbol is an object, a person, a situation, or an action that has a literal meaning in a story, but suggests other meanings. An example of this may be on page 45 when Brian was thinking about his best friend Terry. In the park that time they had decided to make the best shelter was a lean-to. In order to be able to use symbolism in students' own responses, they must identify how it is used in various contexts, and Hatchet provides the best fitted opening for this. Gary Paulson has written the book, thus the reader feeling a sense of belonging, or comfort. Maybe that they can relate to Brian's emotions of feeling abandoned, broken, and maybe even lost. Brian has self-confidence in all of his achievements, from landing the aircraft, but maybe not in one piece, to finding his first source of food. Brian's Hatchet, along with his little friend, soon become the only company for the next few months, as he settles in and awaits the feeling of being belonged into his parents' arms once again. By using the narrative element, the reader recognizes that Brian has been rewired with much more experience of being in the Canadian wilderness alone for months. Alone. To conclude, Hatchet is an exquisite example of how many literary elements operate for particular purposes. While this presentation has only been briefly brushed on two of these elements, the novel is the perfect principle for studying, as it is effective and relevant to all narrative elements. Not only that, it is considerably enjoyable for both students and the teacher, and one has a universal relevance. I would encourage all teachers to consider this book for their next novel study for English Year 9, and trust me, you will not regret this.